Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, BSIT 31. So, we will now start the introduction for IM 102. But before that, let us first discuss the module overview. So, for your module overview, the database system are designed to control large number of information, management of data, integrates both determining structures for information storage and providing mechanism for information manipulation. Likewise, the database system must guarantee the safety of stored information even though system crashes or attempts of unauthorized access. If data are to be made available among several users, the system must avoid possible anomalous result. So this module gives the students a deeper and broader view of the issue involved in database management systems. We will explore the advanced database systems, their management, and their corporate role. This module looks at the technologies, data models, and policies that such system require. Learning objectives. So at the end of the course, the student should be able to identify the main characteristic of entity relationship component, describe the process of database design, identify the extended entity relationship or EER model, and describe how these concept become a good foundation for a successful application development under the concept of normalization and what role it plays in the database design process. Develop a better understanding on how the normal forms work, identify the different SQL syntax for multiple table queries, understand how the different SQL functions are used to manipulate date, strings, and other data. Develop an understanding on how to conduct evaluation and revision within the SLDC and DBLC framework during database design. Establish a differentiation between database strategies top to down compared to the bottom to up design and centralized compared to decentralized design. So let's start with the topic. So we will start with the entity relationship model. So when we say ER model, it describes the interrelated things of interest in a specific domain of knowledge. So a basic ER model is composed of entity types, which classify the things of interest and specify relationship that can exist between entities, instances of those entity types. So sa ER model, dito ninyo makikita yung tinatawag natin na yung diagram, yung mga fields, yung mga relationship, ano yung mga table na uh, makikita ninyo dito. So we will create a model, a design of your database. So what is an ER model? ER model interprets the three most important steps. It operates around the real-world entities and the association among them. At view level of the ER model is a good option for designing database. So ER model is used to design database. Alright? So entity relationship model is an ER model. So before that, we need to discuss the following so that we can grasp or we will have an idea what is an ER model. The first one is the requirement analysis. So before you create an ER model, you need to identify the requirements. So you need to analyze the requirements before you can design an ER model. So first thing to do in designing a database application, understand what the data need to be stored in the database. What is the name of the database? What are the tables? What are the names of the tables? What are the fields that we're going to use? As well as application must be on the top of it. And what operation are we must find out? What are the user want from the database? Next is the conceptual database design. So when we say conceptual database design, the information gathered in the requirements analysis step is used to develop a high-level description to be stored in database along with the constraints known to hold over the data. The ER model is one of the high level or semantic data models used in database. So after you gather all the information requirements to the requirement analysis, so the next step is you need to develop a high-level description of the data to be stored in database. So that is conceptual database design. We must choose a DBMS to implement our database design and convert that conceptual database design into a database schema. In the data model of chosen DBMS, sometimes conceptual schema is called logical schema in a relational data model. Entity. What is an entity? An entity can be a real-world object, either animate or inanimate, that can be easily identifiable. Example, student. Ano pa? Employee. Some example of the entity. So, for example, in a school database, student, teachers, classes, and courses offered can be considered as entities. So, all these entities have some attributes or properties that give them their identity. So, meron silang attributes at properties to identify them. An entity is a collection of similar types of entities. An entity set may contain entities with attribute sharing similar values. For example, a student set may contain all the students of a school. Likewise, a teacher set may contain all the teachers of a school from all faculties. Entity sets need to be disjoint. So that is an entity. Ano pa yung makikita ninyong sa isang ER model? So, it is composed of entity. Next is attribute. What is an attribute? An attribute is an entities. So, entities are represented by means of their properties called attribute. So, entities may mga properties that describes the entity. You call them attributes. All attributes have values. For example, a student entity may have name, class, and age as attributes. There exists a domain or range of values that can be assigned to attributes. For example, a student name cannot be a numeric value. It has to be alphabetic. Yan. So, it should be alphabetic. A student's age cannot be negative. Yun yung mga kailangan ninyong tandaan when assigning an attribute. What are the different types of attribute? We have simple attribute, meaning it which cannot be divided further. Ibig sabihin, isa lang yung value niya ng attribute. Example, a student phone number. So, yung phone number lang i-store mo. It has an atomic value of 10 digits. So, you can store at up to 10 digits. Composite attribute naman is made of more than one simple attribute. Example, a student complete name can be divided into 3 attribute. First name, last name, and middle name. Derived attribute are attributes that do not exist in physical database but their values are derived from other attributes present in the database. Example, average salary in a department should not be saved directly in the database. Instead, it can be derived. Age can be derived from data of birth. Pwede yan. Single value attribute contains single value. Example, social security number. Multi-valued attribute may contain more than one values. We have, a person can have more than one phone number. Yan. Email, address, and etc. So that is what we call multi-valued attribute. Entity, it is set and keys. So what is a key? An attribute, ang attribute daw, or collection of attributes. So hindi lang iisa yung attribute na pwede nating i-store. Marami. Halimbawa, name, address, gender, so on. So, those collection of attributes that uniquely identifies an entity among entity set. So, we need a key that will identify all these attributes which describe same entities among them. So, the roll number of student makes him her identify among students. So, anong gagamitin nating identity key that will identify this group of attributes. So example, the roll number of a student makes him or her identifiable among the students. O pwede rin yung student ID. Pwede siya maging key. There are mainly three types of keys. We have super key, a set of attributes, one or more that collectively identifies an entity in an entity set. Candidate key. A minimal superkey is called a candidate key. An entity set may have more than one candidate key. Primary key. A primary key is one of the candidate key chosen by the database designer to uniquely identify the entity set. So yon, yung primary key natin. It will identify the entity set or group of attributes which is related to each other. Relationship. So, punta na tayo sa relationship. In a relationship, the association among entities is called relationship. So, yung association ng mga entities, pag pinagsama mo yung mga entities, bumubuo sila ng relationship. In this example, mapapansin nyo dalawang entity, teacher and student. Ano yung relationship nila? Ito yon. So, for example, an employee works at the department, a student enrolls in a course. Here, works and enrolls are called relationship. Ayan. Works and enrolls are called relationship. Relationship set. A set of relationship of similar type is called a relationship set. Like entities, a relationship too can have attributes. So, hindi lang yung entity ang pwede magkaroon ng attribute. Pwede rin ang relationship na magkaroon ng attribute. So, these attributes are called descriptive attributes. So, yung attributes ng mga relationship, ang tawag sa kanya ay descriptive attribute. So, in this example, we have the student entity set and the course entity set. And in between them, at the middle is the relationship entity set. So, meron rin siyang entity. Degree of relationship. A number of participating entities in a relationship defines the degree of the relationship. Thus, the degree of a relationship set is equal to the number of entities set participating in a relationship set. So, yung dami ng entity na nagpa-participate in a relationship. So, that is what we call the degree of relationship set. What are the types of relationship sets? Okay. So, yung una, yung tinatawag natin ay unary relationship set. It is a relationship set where only one entity set participates in a relationship set. So, sa unary means one, ilang entity yung nagpa-participate sa isang relationship? Isa lang. Kaya mapapansin niyo, isa lang. Example, one person is married to only one person. Napansin niyo yung entity, isa lang. Okay, that's why it's unary. The next is binary relationship set. It is a relationship set where two entity sets participate in a relationship set. So in this example, mapapansin niyo in a relationship, dalawa yung entity. You have student and course. That's why it is binary. Ternary relationship set, as its name implies, ternary, tatlo sila. One, employee, two, location, and department who participate in a relationship set. Enary, pag sinabi nating enary relationship, it is a relationship set where n entity sets participate in a relationship set. So, ibig sabihin more than 3 or any number. Mapping cardinalities. Cardinality, it defines the number of entity in one entity set which can be associated with the number of entities of other set via relationship set. So what are the types of cardinality? We have one-to-one cardinality. By this cardinality constraint, an entity in set A can be associated with at most one entity in set B. An entity B also in set B can be associated with at most one entity in set A. Ayan. So ito yung cardinality ratio niya. 1:1. Next is another example. Consider the following ER diagram. So this is a one-to-one relationship. Here, one student from entity student can enroll in at most one course. Ayan. So, yung isang student, pwede siya makapag-enroll ng kahit isang course. So, that is one-to-one. And one course can be enrolled by at most one student. So, one entity from entity set A can be associated with at most one entity of entity set B and vice versa. One-to-many cardinality. By this cardinality constraint, an entity in set A can be associated with any number, 0 or more, of entities in set B. An entity in set B can be associated with at most one entity in set A. So that is one-to-many. Consider the following ER diagram. Here, one student can enroll in any number or more of courses. So, yung isang student can enroll many courses. Or, yes. So, one course can be enrolled by at most one student. But, one course can only be enrolled by at least or at most one student. So, that is example of one-to-many cardinality. The next one is the many-to-one cardinality. By this cardinality constraint, an entity in set A can be associated with at most one entity in set B, and an entity in set B can be associated with any number, 0 or more, of entities in set A. So, ito yung diagram niya. Yan. Cardinality ratio is many is to 1. So, consider the following ER diagram. Here, one student can enroll in at most one course. One course can be enrolled by any number of students. Many-to-many cardinality. By this cardinality constraint, an entity in set A can be associated with any number, 0 or more, of entities in set B. An entity in set B can be associated with any number, 0 or more, of entities in set A. So, what is the symbol used? Ito yan. So, yan ang cardinality ratio niya. Many to any number, with any number. Consider the following ER diagram, many to many relationship. Here, one student can enroll in any number, 0 or more, of courses, or one course can be enrolled in any number, 0 or more, of student. So we have the entity relationship diagram. So that ends the first part of the first topic, which is topic 1. So that is the first part. Then we will just continue for the second part. So just watch the next video for our next topic. So if you have any question, just PM me in Microsoft Teams. You can just chat me there if you have question about the topic. And so that's all. So thank you for listening and for your participation. Good day and God bless.